Brian Q. Quinn, Salvatore Sal Vulcano, Joseph Joe Gatto Jr. All three of these men are involved in a cover-up decades in the making, one buried underneath the sands of time, and yet paraded daily in our faces. How far is too far? How deep is too deep? As Vercors once said in Silence de la Mer, under the silences of yesteryear, as under the calm surface of the waters, one feels the underwater life of the hidden feelings, the desires and the thoughts that are negating and who are fighting. And under the water of American society, we see one such figure fighting against captors who have robbed him of his very will, James Murr S. Murray. Staten Island, New York, 1999. Four best friends form a comedy troupe by the name of the Tenderloins. After modest success, they win the grand prize in NBC's infamous competition, It's Your Show, a competition on NBC in which the quartet created a film about a service which could enhance your past with a time machine. Unfortunately, this show never aired. However, the quartet once struck gold again when they filmed the pilot episode of a hidden camera show on their iPhones under the name Mission Uncomfortable. The name of the show today? Impractical Jokers. Within a few months, the group had become known for their mischievous hijinks, forcing each other to do anything from sensually rubbing lotion into strangers to wrapping each other's houses in gift wrap. Despite their successes, the group always kept their modest spirits. Or did they? It was not long after discovering the show that I became an impractical joker. My friends and I quickly assumed names: Sal Gals, Johos, Cuties, and yet only one of my friends bore the badge of James S. Murray under the name Merman. Why was this young, ferret-like man so heavily disliked by the community? Upon further investigation into episodes of the show, I realized that many of them depicted challenges which often tipped into the obscene, Murray being at the forefront. Over and over, these men performed unspeakable acts without shame, laughing their way to the bank like the Federalists. But Murr stood out to me as a man almost above it all the while still deeply entrenched in the franchise. Taking a closer look at the early Impractical Jokers plot, again under the name Mission Uncomfortable, we see a trend. All three of the men seem unembarrassed, almost proud of what they're doing. And yet Murr looks more fitting to the title of the show itself, Uncomfortable. While Joe is seen parading around in a flamingo costume, and Q simply pressing every elevator button he can, only Sal and Murr seem to share the same brunt. Sal, as the loser, is forced to pretend he has a boner during a tailoring session, while Murr is made to peek at another man well in a urinal. Such an invasion of private space, in a public setting no less, is a grossly inaccurate prank as opposed to those of the other three, and Murr bears it with a look that cries for help. Even most of the comments on this video posted on Reddit speak of Murr's actions in the trailer, showing how much they stand out from those of the others. But why would Murr go through such a horrible act? As the show dictates, each joker must do as they're told by the other guys. But I believe Murr's punishments reveal his inferior status to the other fellow jokers, as he is often unfairly forced into situations. In one such punishment, he is forced to sit through his high school movie, Damned, which was funded by the money his father had planned to spend on a new car for Murr. Afterwards, the jokers berate him with a cloud of movie critics tearing apart his work and his psyche. We will analyze the film itself and its early implications later, but they have clear intent to harm Murray. Just listen to some of the horrifying remarks they make.
It's terrible. It is terrible. He's been trying to bury it. He tried to bury it. He successfully buried it until right now. Guess who's got some shovels? It is about to get so much worse.
Let's talk about your directing style. There are people who would say that no style is a style in and of itself.
Not enough evidence for you? Every episode, every day, watch Murr's face, his failures, his shames. He is ashamed to be tied to this group that has gone so low. What of the episode where Joe simulates sexual intercourse with a dog? What of the episode where Q attempts to bury a child? It is my personal belief that if one of the Jokers were told to pull a gun on the other for the prank, they would do it. So who is to say they haven't already have? This type of abuse goes over the line into bullying. Bullying which every viewer of the show is a bystander towards. While the guys may jest with each other from time to time, Murr shares the brunt of the blame. In one episode, Sal is the one being punished by having to drink warm breast milk, and yet Murr is later forced to drink the same milk despite his non-punishment status. Yes, the other guys claim that Murr also lost the challenge, but looking at the numbers in this episode, this is simply untrue. As such, Joe, Q, and Sal will lie, cheat, and steal their way through the game, ruthlessly holding Murr within their grasp. Listen to the dialogue between the witnesses of this cruelty in an after-punishment discussion.
Everybody, you're not in this alone.
What?
Murr, cheers, matey!
What does that mean, cheers?
So this is when we trick Murray
Right,
and make him
but
drink
that's
it too.
a cruel
Well,
trick.
you know what? That's what he gets. He went out there on his own accord. He's like, I want to be out there and be a pirate. Like, go ahead.
Okay.
Then you leave me and Q together. We're gonna mess things away to mess with you too.
Yeah, that was messed up that you made him do this, and then it wasn't even.
It's not even his punishment.
Sal stands up to Joe, the most ruthless Joker, somewhat, and yet Joe brushes it off as a funny prank played on a close friend. Now to examine Murr's perhaps most infamous work, the movie Damned. This movie goes to the heart of the conflict within the Joker's relationships. As you will remember, they all went to the same high school in Staten Island. During Murr's punishment, this movie is largely shortened to keep the audience from boredom. However, looking through a few choice clips, I was able to find many interesting ideas James S. Murray brought up subtly through use of witty dialogue and charactericism. First to the opening scene. Set in modern times, the film stars a young teen Jesus as he deals with the biblical events of the Bible in modern times. While playing basketball, he hits a defenseless old woman. As you will remember, women are frequently marginalized in society, unable to speak up and use their voices for fear of men attacking or even physically abusing them. As such, we can conclude that this woman is a lot like Murr around the Jokers, and through her, he is trying to tell us a message. Listen.
Probably have a black eye now. And you got a fat ass. You gonna blame me for that too?
Oh, I see. You think you can wave your hand and heal my eye and that makes it all better, huh? Well, not this time, Buster.
Through this scene, Murr is using this woman as a vessel to speak to the other Jokers, represented by Jesus. This can be concluded because the teen Jesus is both young and hip, acting suave and almost untouchable because he is, in fact, the Son of God. Murr, through the woman, asks, "So you can just erase my black eye and act like nothing happened? So you can abuse me and suffer no consequences?" Clearly, as you will remember, Murr has been no stranger to physical punishment, as demonstrated in the Pinata episode. As a side note, this episode's punishment is supposed to be Joe's, and they even go as far to switch it to Murr just to torture him. On to another scene. Jesus is seen trying to rob a bakery with his perhaps illegitimate father, Joseph. He zaps lightning bolts at many characters, most notably including the old woman we saw earlier. Using the frame of the last scene we studied, it is clear that the Jokers, represented by Jesus, are harming and stealing from Murray, represented by the old woman. A final scene is the final scene itself, perhaps the most important one of the film. In a retelling of the betrayal of Jesus, a man named Larry points the guards to the biblical teenager, leading to the Son of God's deaths at the hand of the Romans. However, when asked about who betrayed Jesus, he points to Apostle Judas, played by James S. Murray himself. Depicted in angel attire and a gold foil halo, Murr is clearly an angelic and innocent figure. Yet, when he flips in the Bible, he finds his name is in the section of betrayal, and he is promptly chased, and we can assume killed, by the mob. What does this scene tell us? Murray is clearly not in the wrong here, and yet for every betrayal in the Joker's lives, Murr is the one to blame and condemn. The Jokers, after all, are Jesus, the sons of true TV, perfect, innocent, and ready to blame. From the beginning, James Murr S. Murray has warned us of the powers of his captors which must have imprisoned him against his will for him to continue his torture. Who, after all, would let his best friends destroy his house, even going as far as to smash his flat-screen TV? These actions are taken with malicious intent, meant to show Murr that his place is below, not among, the Jokers. Although the guys all claim to be acting in the name of good fun, Murr's facial expressions, as time goes on, communicate his fear, desperation, and despair. Will he end up out at last, or in a ditch? As Vercors once said in Silence de la Mer, I felt the underwater life. And so may Murr soon, if help is not found for the ferret that lost its business.